Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast. I'm your host, Big Sarge. What's going on, y'all? It's been a minute, right? I know, that's okay. I am going to make sure that this is something that's going to be done on a consistent and regular basis. Both podcasts, Sports Talk with Big Sarge and the Attention to Orders podcast. So I want to make sure that I give you all weekly content on both platforms so that I can make sure that I, hit the sports crowd and make sure that I hit the current events crowd, and we can just have that type of conversation. So I want to make sure that I'm doing this, and I'll tell you why in just a second. I'm available on all podcast platforms. I'm available on YouTube at Big Sarge Media. You can follow me on social media, Big Sarge Sports with a Z at the end on Twitter and IG, Big Sarge on Facebook. And I just told you that the reason why you're going to start getting so much more content from me. Oh, and BigSargeSports.com. The one reason you're going to start getting more content from me is because, let me say this, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace, Black Panther. Rest in peace, King. Chadwick Boseman showed me that life is too short. Chadwick Boseman showed me that life is entirely too short. And with that being said, I also have to get out here and make sure that I live every day to the fullest. Now, I was trying to do my best with that when it came to, dealing with my late wife, Jamila, and I tried to live my every day to the fullest, but I felt like I was slacking a little bit. After Chadwick Boseman passed away on yesterday, and my condolences goes out to his family, it woke me up on last night after I came to you all on here on the same platform, and poured out and opened my heart to you all. I had a cleansing. And so now I say, you know what? It's time for me to get back on that wagon. It's time for me to get back on that horse. And it's time for me to put out more quality content. And that's what I'm here for. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that I put out the best available content from the sports aspect and from the, social aspect, current events, things that are going on. We're going to talk. So once again, you tune into the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast, and I'm your host, Big Sarge. I got a power pack show for you here. It's going to be a little bit rushed, so let me tell you that now, because I have to get down to Minute Maid Park, so it's going to be just a tad bit rushed. But on today, we're going to talk about how the Astros had a historic walk-off. I will talk about how the Texans' defensive backfield is a huge asset to them, how that Texans defensive backfield may make the difference for their season this year. And I have a special guest coming on today. And I'm going to talk about how big it is that the Rockets are getting back Russell Westbrook today in Game 5 against the Oklahoma City Thunder. So we got a power pack show. I'm going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to tell you why I am glad that I was on the side of history on last night. Hey, what's going on, y'all? You're tuned into Attention to Orders. I'm your host, Big Sarge. All my Vietnam veterans, welcome home. Germany, good night. All my active duty military personnel is downrange, good night. It is now time for Big Sarge's Article 15. Come get this work on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm out. Hey, welcome back. You're tuned to the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast. I'm your host, Big Sarge. Let me jump right into this thing right quick. On yesterday, I was a part of history. I think I may have been on the wrong side of history in some instances, in some cases, but on last night, though, I know that I was on the right side of history. And what I mean by on the right side of history is that there was no more important walk-off than what the Astros and the Houston Astros and the Oakland A's did last night at Minute Maid Park. And I was glad that I was there. On the same day that Major League Baseball was celebrating Jackie Robinson Day, and for those of you all who don't know, Jackie Robinson was the first African-American baseball player in 1947, I think, to break the color barrier, to come from the Negro League to Major League Baseball. And so every year, Major League Baseball celebrates Jackie Robinson Day by wearing, his number 42. Every team in the league wears his number 42. They have this big ceremony every year with, paying their honor to Jackie Robinson. So last night I was there, right? Last night I was there, and I got a chance to witness something that I didn't think that I would ever see. And I'm going to be honest with you, in the history of the Astros, because the Astros wear Black Lives Matter t-shirts, but they don't take a knee during the national anthem like other other major league clubs are doing, like they're doing in the NFL, like they're doing in the NBA, like they're doing in the WNBA. So the Astros don't do anything like that. They stand along the foul line, they put their hands over their heart during the national anthem, and they ain't got nothing wrong with that, because I do the exact same thing myself. So they normally don't do anything like this. Like I said, the most bold or brash move that they have made as an organization is to wear the Black Lives Matter t-shirt, because all of them are on one accord when it comes to that. But on last night, and we didn't really know what was going on, because we talked to Dusty Baker earlier through Zoom, and Dusty was like, I don't know what's going on. Dusty was like, I don't have a clue on what's going on. I have not talked to the players, so I can't tell you whether or not we're going to play a game, if we're going to play a game tonight or not, because I have not talked to the players. But on last night, what the Astros did was, like 15 minutes prior to the game, we noticed that the starting pitcher, Lance McCullers Jr., was sitting in the bullpen and just sitting there. He wasn't warming up or nothing. It was like, something may be going on here. And there was a couple of reports that hit social media that said the Astros may not be playing tonight. And so as it got closer and closer, then the team started to fill up in the dugouts. And then they came out. They did the national anthem. They went back in. The starting lineups was announced. The Astros took the field after the starting lineups were announced. They took the field. All the teams came out, stood along the first base and the third base line, and stood there for 42 seconds in honor of Jackie Robinson Day and to pay homage to Jackie Robinson. And then after that, they left. They cleared the field. They were done. And I said to myself, oh, my goodness. I ain't never seen nothing like this before. I had never been a part of something like that. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm an Astros fan. I could not have been more prouder of the Houston Astros and the Houston Astros organization than I was last night. Oh my God. I was just like, wow, this is it. This is it. I was so happy and emotional that I was like, wow, look at this. I think Marcus Semien from the Oakland A's came out and laid an Oakland A's jersey with the number 42 on one batter's box, and I think Martin Maldonado came out and laid a number 42 jersey in the other batter's box, and then they put a Black Lives Matter t-shirt right over home plate. I don't really think that you all know how significant that is for Major League Baseball to do that, especially in a sport where there is not a lot of diversity when it comes to African Americans. I think the Seattle Mariners have the most African Americans on their team, and they may have 7 or 8 black players on their team. Oh, and don't get me wrong. Oh, they black. It ain't just like they're black by skin color. They black. When they opened up the season against the Astros, they took a knee on opening day, and then after that, they ain't come back out. They haven't been back out for the national anthem since. And that trickled down to other players, other African-American players, and some Anglo-American players in Major League Baseball. So I was like I said, I was happy to be on the side of history on last night. Now, here's the thing. Some of you all may not know this, but I'm going to tell you from my personal experience what I love the most. I love the fact that I get a chance to see a walking national treasure and speak and talk to a walking national treasure in Dusty Baker. Man, let me tell y'all something. Dusty Baker is like that uncle that you go to the family reunion and you seek out. You be like, that Uncle Dusty over there, Uncle Dusty here already? Oh, y'all already know where to find me. No, listen, in the black community, in the black families, Uncle Dusty is either at the dominoes table or is at the spades table. And you know he's there because he's the loudest one talking the most trash. Win, lose, or draw. It does not matter what the situation is. He is talking cash trash, probably with a beverage of choice in a brown bag. Some of y'all may not get that, but a beverage of choice inside of a brown bag. I'm going to leave that right there. But I'm pretty sure that Dusty Baker had a lot to do with the Astros making that decision on last night, because they had the whole organization was behind them. General Manager James Click came out and said, yes, we support him. He said that he talked with the owner. And the owner and the entire Astros organization was behind the players in doing this. And they said they could not have been more proud. If you get a chance, go back and just look up Dusty Baker when you have time. When you got time, go back and look up Dusty Baker, and you'll see everything that Dusty Baker has been through. Dusty Baker knows Satchel Paige. Dusty Baker was there when Willie Mays broke when Hank Aaron broke the home run record. He knows history. He knows players who played in the Negro League. Dusty Baker is a walking national treasure, and he'll let it be known. Dusty Baker, talking to us yesterday, let us know that he's been through a lot, and he would love to see before he leaves this earth that things change. I got to give props to the Oakland A's too, because the Oakland A's could have said no, because the night before, like this was on last night, Friday night is when they protested with the Astros and postponed that game. Well, Thursday night, they did the exact same thing with the Texas Rangers. So they could have said no. And for those of y'all who've been following Major League Baseball, you know that there has been a lot of bad blood between the Houston Astros and the Oakland A's. Started out with former Houston Astros Mike Fears going to The Athletic and saying that the Astros were cheating in 2017 when they won their World Series, and that bad blood. And then earlier this year, during a weekend series in Oakland, one of the players from the Oakland A's and the Astros batting coach, hitting coach, they got into it. They had a verbal altercation, brought everybody out. So there's some bad blood. But I was so happy to hear that Tony Kemp was instrumental in bringing these teams together, and was also instrumental in saying, yeah, whatever y'all need, I have been given the title of the representative for this cause, and we're going to get it done. So like I said, I was happy to be on the right side of history on last night, watching that and witnessing that and seeing that, because when I asked Dusty Baker, when I asked Michael Brantley about, do you think that this will be a significant, monumental type thing that will get African-American males, young African-American males back into baseball? He says, both of them said, I sure hope so. Both of them said that I sure hope so. And I hope so as well. Baseball isn't as diverse as we would like it to be. And I'm going to tell you what happened. It isn't that young African-American males, young black males don't want to play the sport. They can't afford it. They can't. They can't afford to play. With the cost of travel baseball. Baseball is played year-round at the lower levels. It is expensive to play in some of these leagues. It's expensive to travel. It's expensive for the equipment. And a lot of these African Americans just don't have it. They don't. They do not have the money in order to be able to fully fund their kids in baseball. But you know what? You know what they always can do? They can always find a hoop to shoot on. They can always find a field to run in and play football in. It ain't that easy when it comes to baseball. So hopefully I'm hoping that Major League Baseball will do a better job in putting more money and building more parks in minority communities to help push baseball back towards African Americans. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm happy. I'm happy I was there last night. And I don't care what y'all say. Y'all can't dog the Astros out in front of me for at least the next 28 hours. And no, you can't. They got a doubleheader today starting at 3:10. Yeah, they got a doubleheader starting today at 3:10 at Minute Maid Park. So we'll see, what the Astros will do and how they will, maybe they'll play better than they did in the last doubleheader. Whew, that was horrible. But they won the first game. That second game was not good. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. Listen, I'm about to get ready to take a break. When I come back from the break, I will have James Carlson, host of the Texans Unfiltered podcast. We're going to talk a little Texans football, but I definitely want to dive into and pick his brain about the Texans defensive backfield, because I feel that they're going to be so good for the Houston Texans this year, and they're going to surprise a lot of people. So we're about to take a break. We'll be back.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? You're tuned into Attention to Orders. I'm your host, Big Sarge. All my Vietnam veterans, welcome home. Germany, good night. All my active duty military personnel is downrange, good night. It is now time for Big Sarge's Article 15. Come get this work on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm out.
Hey, welcome back. You tuned to the Big Sarge podcast. I'm your host, Big Sarge, and you know what? I got a special guest on here, but before we get off into our takes about the Houston Texans, I'm gonna tell you one thing that I really appreciate about you, brother. And I got James Carlson, who's the host of the Texans Unfiltered podcast, and their podcast is available on all platforms. Wherever you get your podcast from, they are available. On Tuesday nights, they stream live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch. And if you can't find them there, just go to TexansUnfiltered.com and you'll definitely find them there. Brother, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Only because I know that you are as big of a music fan as I am. Talking to you last time that we were able to talk to each other in the studio, man, you have a wide knowledge of music. So before I pick your brain about the Texans, I got 2 or 3 music takes I want to run by you, okay? How huge was it for Apple to finally get No Ceilings mixtape by Lil Wayne on their platform? Bro, I've been jamming that thing ever since it hit Apple on yesterday.
I love it. I wish they did that with more mixtapes. That was the first thing I turned on Friday morning. No Ceilings is, that's, I was 19, crazy like that. And Lil Wayne was on top of the world at that time. I mean, it's such a classic mixtape. I really wish that we would have gotten the full mixtape instead of, missing a couple tracks. But it's just huge. It's huge. And, Drake's done it in the past and now Lil Wayne. So hopefully we'll get some of the big crits and, some of the J. Cole's mixtapes and, Wale and Wiz Khalifa and things of that nature. Because there's some classic mixtapes out there that you can't listen to unless you have like the Dat Piff app, which is not a fun app to listen to.
At all. Dang, you said that Piff. I had forgot all about that.
Right.
Wow, you might as well have said Napster. But another thing I wanted to ask you, man, how huge was it for Nas to finally get with a good producer and have good beats, man? Listen, I can't stop listening to his latest CD either.
Yeah, it's funny because I mean the album is awesome. I mean, Hit Boy, from the production, what he was able to do with Nas, especially Nas coming off of doing an album with Kanye and that not going so well. And then, people telling him to stick with his original production and then go into Hit Boy, who's a West Coast producer. But, he's done so much. And to be able to tailor an album that'll fit the theme of Nas, and then Nas growing up and really like kind of taking his bars and his lyricism and storytelling to a whole nother level, given like how old he is and talking about, he talks about the normal things he's talked about, but he also talks about, him and Khalees a lot more. He seems to be more open about his life and his relationships and just kind of what's going on. King's Disease is a great album.
Yeah, I like it, bro. I'm not gonna even lie to you. And so I'm gonna tell you, and I know they do this on another popular podcast. They talk about their sleepers, and so I'm gonna steal that from them just for this podcast right now. My sleeper is, bro, have you listened to the Vic Mensa, the new one?
Oh, I love Vic Mensa.
Have you listened to the new one though?
Yeah, James.
Oh my goodness. Hey, Vendetta is my favorite, man. I listened to that.
Great.
When I was headed to San Diego when the Astros played the Padres, I think I listened that the entire time I was in San Diego. And off air, I'm going to tell you why I don't like San Diego. I know you being a West Coast guy, but I'm going to tell you why I don't like San Diego. But listen, if you had to give the people a sleeper to listen to, what would it be?
A sleeper to listen to. I'm going to give you something new. And maybe it won't hit home for everybody in Houston, but I really love Big Sean's new single with Nipsey Hussle.
Oh, I heard it.
I'm a huge Nipsey Hussle fan, so it was almost like you and I were alive when Pac died. So like when you first heard that after post death verse from Tupac, it was like a spiritual feeling almost because you just got all these memories of Tupac and. I love that song. I love being able to hear Nipsey, and I thought Sean really is showing his maturity as an MC and kind of what he's going through. Talks a lot about his mental health and depression, which I think is something that isn't talked about enough in the world, given the mental health state and the things that we're going through as a country. So that's it right there. That's my favorite, and it's called Deep Reverence.
Yes, I got a chance. I think I heard it. So I was listening to the Joe Budden podcast, and they put it on. Yeah, so I was like, wow. I was listening to that, and then when it released, I was like, yeah, I like this. And so I think I first heard. I listened to it again when I was down a rabbit hole on YouTube. I had to tell you about how I end up down these rabbit hole on these YouTube videos at another time. Once again, tune into the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast. I'm your host, Big Sarge, and joining me today, I have James Carlson, host of the Texans Unfiltered podcast, available wherever you get your podcast from. Now, man, I want to go ahead and jump in and deep dive on your specialty, the Texans, the Houston Texans. Now, I know, like, it's too easy to talk about Deshaun Watson. It's too easy to talk about the plethora of the plethora of tight ends that they have. It's too easy to talk about Randall Cobb, Kenny Stills, Will Fuller. It's too easy to talk about them. I want to talk about something that I don't think everybody's taking a look at, and that's the Texans defensive backfield. Now, I feel that, well, first of all, let me tell you something like this. Let me tell you this. My favorite player on the Texans defense is Justin Reed. I have been telling Justin Reed he is going to be a defensive MVP in this league since the day he got to Houston. And so now that he's a veteran and he learned from the Honey Badger when he was here, when Tyrann Mathieu was here, he learned from him. He learned from Tayshaun Gibson. He was right across the way from Jonathan Joseph, who was a veteran presence in that Texans locker room, but he was also an NFL veteran who has been in the league a long time and has seen a lot. And he would take him under his wing, even though they played two different positions. He still take him under his wing and show him and tell him different types of things. So now Justin Reed is the leader in that defensive backfield. But man, they got other defensive backs that I feel like will step up and get the job done. What about you?
I mean, there's lots to like about this Texans secondary and just the defensive back group in general. So you start with Justin Reed, and you saw his rookie year truly what he's capable of, and saw the potential that he had. Played more of a single high safety, Didn't play as much in the box. They kind of let Tyrann Mathieu just run around and kind of be the Swiss Army knife safety. Then last year, Tyrann leaves, and Justin Reed's kind of playing that role. I'm really excited to see what they do this year. I really want to see him go back to that single high safety role. Obviously they'll be able to move him around, so he's not going to have to just play center field. But given his shoulder injury last year, I think he's had 3 shoulder surgeries in his time of playing football between college and pro. I'd like to see him play more of a coverage safety. But the sky's the limit when it comes to Justin Reed. I think when we first started talking over a year ago, the first person you brought up was Justin Reed and how much you just, not just the on the field presence, but just who he is as a man and who he is as a person, really what attracted you to him. And I think when you look at the Texans roster in general, there's a lot of those type of characters on this team, the guys that you just kind of levitate to. I was talking to Brandon Dunn yesterday. He's one of those guys too. And, I love Justin Reed. I think he's got so much potential. And then you look at the second safety position, and you wonder, is it going to be Eric Murray? Is it going to be? They committed a lot of money to him. He can play in the box. He's a great tackler. He's not really your coverage guy, but he said he is a couple times. In press conferences. So I'd like to see him play in the box. I don't really want him out and covering tight ends either. But then you have AJ Moore, who I think it was right after the season, right before the offseason. I put out the tweet to everybody to watch out for AJ Moore. This guy's been with the team for 3 years. He's every year his role has increased and he's gotten better and better. Now is the time where it's really showing off. Now you're seeing it in camp. Now you're seeing it in scrimmages. People are understanding who he is and what he's capable of doing. He's making plays all over the field. And so it's going to be very interesting. The safety group is. I think most fans were concerned about the safety group coming into the season, right? Because who's this Eric Murray kid, and why do we commit so much money to him? Well, if you go turn on the tape and with the Browns and the Chiefs, you can see why he was brought in. And AJ Moore is developing, and he's a homegrown talent, which is a big part of what the Texans like to do. They love homegrown talent. They love undrafted guys, and they have tons of players to show that they're able to develop and get them to where they want to be. The secondary itself with Roby, Conley, Lonnie. Lonnie is a star in the making. It's going to be.
Hold on. I got to stop you right there. Hold on. I got to stop you right there. Man, let me tell you something about Lonnie Johnson Jr. A lot of people don't get Lonnie because they don't know that Lonnie truly had to get it out the mud. And for those of you all who are not familiar with getting it out the mud, for those of you all who don't know that vernacular, that means that he had to literally pull himself up by the bootstraps. He literally fought his way out of Gary, Indiana. I think, if I'm not mistaken, when Lonnie was younger, he lived in a house with maybe 16 people in a 1-bedroom house.
Yep.
So when I say Lonnie got it out of the mud, he had to get it out of the mud, and it took him different avenues. He had to take different paths in order to get to the University of Kentucky, but he got there and he shined, and he's a big defensive back. He's an aggressive defensive back. And the only reason I stopped you is because I want to say, man, I really like him. When he got kicked out of the scrimmage on last year against the Green Bay Packers, I was like, oh, I already knew that. You could just tell during training camp how his aggressiveness is like, yo, I'm going to hit you. I'm going to hit you. And his being over-aggressive kind of worked against him last year, but he was a rookie too. The speed of a lot of people don't realize that when you talk to some of these rookies, these NFL rookies, if you go back and talk to some of these veterans and ask them about their rookie year, they'll tell you the biggest thing that they had to learn was game speed. They did not realize how fast the NFL game was until they actually got in the NFL game, and how there's a lot of moving parts and moving pieces because, for us, we're just looking at it. When they're on the field, they're looking that there's so many factors that goes into it. And so, yeah, man, I love Lonnie Johnson Jr.
Yeah, I do too. And, when I talked to Lonnie in February, the biggest thing that I took away from what he said was he knew exactly what he needed to work on. And being a rookie, coming out, understanding what areas you need to improve on, and then going out and doing it. And that's what he did working with the Footwork King. He understood that it was transition, it was hips. It was learning how to backpedal a little bit, lowering his pads because he's a tall guy. It's really hard. And I don't think people understand, he's 6'2". he's got to be able to lower his pads and be able to get underneath the wide receiver at times too, if he wants to jam him off the line. So, Lonnie, he's doing everything that he needs to do to make a name for himself. It's going to be interesting to see how the secondary looks. Like, how is it going to be played? Is Roby going to play in the nickel? Is it going to be Lonnie and Conley on the outside? Is Hargraves or John Reed going to play the nickel and Conley and Roby on the outside? There's just so many different things. Is Lonnie going to be used for tight ends? That's actually what I think. I think Lonnie's going to be the tight end killer, like kind of like how AJ Bouye used to be. I think that's how they're going to plan to use Lonnie and let him just kind of get into being the outside corner. So yeah, I'm really excited about Lonnie Johnson. There's no reason not to be. Plus, he's just another great dude, like another one like that we've talked about with Justin Reed and we talked about with Deshaun. And it's just all these players. You got a locker room full of great guys.
Yeah, and James, I'm gonna put it like this, and I'm gonna be totally 100 with you. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did not know a lot about Garyon Conley coming into, prior to him coming to the Texans, right? You all have been talking about Conley for a very long time. Can you enlighten us on what we're missing or what the average fan is missing when it comes to Garyon Conley, and how is he going to help improve the Texans defensive backfield this year?
Yeah, so, Garyon Conley coming out of college, coming out of Ohio State, he was my number one ranked corner. Very physical, he plays press man, has great recovery, has great transition and speed. He's just one of those guys that is always in it. When you look at corners, there's corners that get beat, and then there's corners that can kind of stay with them. And then there's corners who are just right there in their hip pocket. And Roby is one of those guys, and Conley's one of those guys. I think Conley last year had 14 PBUs, the only Texan to ever have 14 PBUs in a season, and he only did it once with Jonathan Joseph.
Whoa. So, you're not on the Texans Unfiltered podcast. I'm not trying to talk down to my people, but you're going to have to let us know what PBUs stand for. Not everybody knows what PBUs stand for.
Pass breakups. Pass breakups. So he had 14 pass breakups in 2019. Only one Texans corner in the history of the organization has ever had 14, and that's been Jonathan Joseph. I encourage all of your listeners to just go watch the Buffalo Bills game and only in the playoffs and only watch Garyon. Don't watch any other player. Don't go for any other reason. Just watch Garyon. Don't get caught up in Deshaun in the moment. Just watch Garyon Conley. He single-handedly saved that game. Everybody points to Deshaun Watson's miraculous play, and yes, we needed that at the time. But he had two pass breakups on in the end zone that were perfect passes to the wide receiver. He had another one that was on a third down. He's all over the place. Right now, he's hurting, though. He's hurting. He's coming off of ankle surgery. He's not back to form. He doesn't look like he's, just watching the scrimmage promo video the Texans put out, you could see that he doesn't look very fluid. He doesn't look like he trusts his ankle yet. So it may take some time to get him back up to speed. And hopefully he does, because I truly, and I mean this, Garyon Conley is the best cornerback in the AFC South and a top 10 cornerback in the AFC altogether, maybe even the NFL.
Ooh. Okay. I mean, you just dropped that on us like that, huh? You don't think that there's anybody else from any of the other teams that stands out?
No, I mean, Kenny Moore is really good, but he's a slot corner, so you really can't compare the two. When you're talking about outside corners, there's not another corner in the AFC South that is as good as Garyon Conley. And you could probably make an argument there's not another outside corner that's as good as Bradley Roby. The Texans have a really good safety or a really good secondary right now. It's probably the one thing that I've been most excited about. When I talked to Antonio Cromartie, he was talking about just kind of who we have in our secondary and what they're capable of doing. And he's one of the smartest guys to talk cornerbacks with. He's just intelligent as hell. You would think that he can line up and play on Sunday, still to this day. But the pass rush is really, last year we had actually really good corner play and really good safety play. The problem was that the pass rush was non-existent. And for those two to go hand in hand, those two to work, they have to go hand in hand. There's a lot of chemistry between the two. So the pass rush has to get going, and it sounds like in the scrimmage, there's a lot of exotic things happening on the defensive line, and there's pressure coming from all sorts of places. So if that's the case, this Texans defense, maybe by week 8, week 9, might start rolling.
So once again, you tuned into the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast. I am honored to have James Carlson, host of the Texans Unfiltered podcast. And hold on, it's Texans Unfiltered LLC now?
Yeah, man.
You thought I was gonna mention that, bro?
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, thank you. It feels good to be able to, you start something as a passion and a hobby, and you don't look at it to go in a path that God. You never thought God was going to take you on that path. You thought God was going to keep you on the path you're on.
Preach.
And then he presents you with opportunities to show that, you're more than, like, I'm a sales guy. That's my job. I do sales. I'm really good at it. But, he shows me another path that, you never even knew existed. You knew in your core there's a possibility, but you never really believed in it. And then, this podcast and website and, all the team at Texans Unfiltered, it's really the best part about what we do. Building the culture, internally at Texans Unfiltered, making sure that there's support. There's, everybody's happy. Everybody understands their roles. Everybody knows they can come to every single person on the team to collaborate, get feedback. Really just want to build a place where new writers can come and really have their website, like with Jordan and Texans Thoughts. I mean, that guy came in and, he had his own website. He was the only writer. So he was able to build his resume, and now he's just taken off. And now we got Jair on from Toro Times. So, it's just exciting. It's really exciting. And, COVID's, gave us a little punch in the gut early on. We were supposed to be at Texans camp. Yeah. And so, a little hit there, but, I find it's just another test, God testing me and testing us as a company to say, is this what you want to do? And if it is, then your guys are going to have to put forth the work now for next season. And that's what we're going to do. And we're going to take it to the top. And all these other reporters want to get comfortable. Feel free to do so, but they won't outwork me.
All right, man. Well, tell them where they can find you all at and where they can find all this great Texans information from. Because you all do a good job over there.
Thank you. Yeah. You can follow me on Twitter at I am Young Ari Gold. Probably need to change that because it seems like it's really hard for people to find. You can follow us on Twitter at Houston FB Pod. You can follow us on Instagram at Houston FB Pod. Also, Texans Unfiltered on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, everywhere you can find us. And then go to the website. The website's great. We do a lot of film work, so it's not your typical pieces that are explaining kind of roster moves and things of that nature. We really want to take it to the next level and really help fans understand the game. We want to show you what it looks like. We want to show you a PBU. We want to show you what those things can do and how they impact the game. And, you're our biggest supporter in the media world. You're the guy that's always come to me and took me under your arm. And I can't thank you enough for what you've done for me and how you continue to do so. And I can't wait for the day that I can pay you back and be able to show you that I appreciate it.
You paying me back right now, man. I don't know if you seen me ugly crying last night about, the Chadwick Boseman passing away really hit me hard, man. And it affected me because he passed away from colon cancer at such a young age, which is what my wife passed away from as well. And so, hey, man, yes. I mean, hard too, right?
Yeah, no, I did, but I mean, it couldn't have hit you in a way that, you did personally. And I didn't even think about that. I should have reached out. You're right. Like that's
okay, man. Like I said, it's out there. I didn't take it down. I left my ugly crying up there, man. But what I said on last night was, just like what you just got through talking about, finding your purpose and, going where God leads you. And man, I'm going to be honest with you. I was one of the hard-headed children God had for a very long time. And until 2014, he showed me he had been showing me, but it was 2014 when I finally said, you know what, God, you're right. I'm tired of bumping my head up against this wall. I finally realized what it is you want me to do. And I was put here to be able to give. So whatever I can do to help any and everybody to succeed in life, brother, that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here to do. That's my purpose in life, is to be able to help. So, whatever I can do to help you all. And, you know, I'll reach out and be like, hey man, can y'all help me out? Because I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not a film breakdown guy. Well, one, because I'm cheap and I don't want to pay for the things in order to break the film down. I will watch, don't get me wrong, I will watch film, but I won't go in depth like you all do. And that's why I'm so glad that you all share that information and allow that information to be able to get out through Texans Unfiltered. Because even for people like myself, I wouldn't have never known, you know, just like what you said, I wouldn't have never known that Gary Conley was a huge part of that game. And I was at the game, but I was watching so many other different aspects of it, you know, because I got a report on it, that I wouldn't have never really paid attention. That was just another ordinary play for me.
Yeah.
But when you all break things down, and, you know, because I think at one point you all have broken down all of Fales' touchdowns, correct, as a tight end?
We did that, and then we've broken down. We started a category or a column called Watson Watch, and we went back all the way to the beginning of when Deshaun entered the league and broke down each game and have an individual column and article and video breakdown for every single game that Deshaun's done, and then we're going to continue to do that. I don't remember doing Fells. Probably Jordan did Fells, but
yeah.
I mean, yeah, like there's just a lot to it. But, you know, the fans are really, they want it.
Yes.
They want to know. They want to understand schemes and schematics and player responsibilities and all that. But it's not something that you could just go to YouTube and usually just find and watch, right? And and specifically with the Texans, there is nothing of that. So, I mean, it's just fun. It's a passion. It's love. And, you know, I get to meet people like you and have a connection and a personal relationship. And I can't wait. I don't know what you're doing September 10th, but I hope you're coming to our event at Kobo's Q at 5:30.
So here's the thing, right? And a lot of people don't know this, but I fly out to Orlando on September the 9th. Right? I fly out to Orlando. I'm going to Florida, man, because you know, I have two sets of grandkids. There's two girls and two boys. I have a total of 4 grandkids, but there's one set of girls, one set of boys. Well, the boys live in Florida. The girls live in Hawaii, but they're here visiting in Georgia. So they're getting ready to head back. And so the only time frame that I have to be able to have them all in one spot is right there. Right there. And so, you know, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm waiting to hear back from the Texans, because if they allow it, you know, we don't know the credentialing situation right now. The NFL is still up in the air about that. And so, but if they do, then I'm flying out of Florida and headed to Kansas City to cover the game and then coming back to Florida. But I will make it out to, you know, to one of them. I know you all are going to have more. So I'll definitely make sure that I make it out to those, because I've been needing to get out there anyway. And so once everything starts to get to going back and get to normal, I'll be able to make myself more available, man. But I thank you for coming on, brother. I appreciate it. Got to have you back on, man. And we're gonna bring some more people from Texas Unfiltered on as well, bro, so we can all chop it up. And then next time we'll break down some Big Sean.
Oh, it's September 4th. That's when that comes out. So I'm ready. You guys just let me know. No, thank you for having me on. Thank you for the support, and safe travels. Enjoy your grandbabies.
Hey, man, thank you very much, man. I'll talk to you later on. All right, y'all, we're about to get ready to take a break. When I come back, I'm going to dive right into the Rockets and the big addition that they're getting back on today. We'll be back.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? You're tuned into Attention to Orders. I'm your host, Big Sarge. All my Vietnam veterans, welcome home. Germany, good night. All my active duty military personnel that's downrange, good night. It is now time for Big Sarge's Article 15. Come get this work on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm out.
Hey, welcome back. You're tuning to the Sports Talk with Big Sarge podcast. I'm your host, Big Sarge. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at Big Sarge Sports with a Z on IG and on Twitter. And you can also find me at BigSargeSports.com. Make sure you go there. I got all the content that you will ever need when it comes to Houston sports. All right, let me jump right into this thing because I got to get up out of here. The Astros have started, and I got to run up out this door so I can make sure that I make it over there to Minute Maid Park. The Rockets. Here's the thing. One, let me just go ahead and give a special shout out to the NBA players for taking a stance on social injustice and saying that we're tired of hashtags, we're tired of t-shirts, we're tired of talking about it. It's time to do something about it. And on earlier this week, they decided to take a stand and say, hey, we're not playing in the playoff games. And not only are we not playing in the playoff games, there may not be an NBA season. Then I came on and I told you all that they decided to go back and play because they didn't have a contingency plan in place in order to be able to carry that out. That was like a spur of the moment type thing led by George Hill and the Milwaukee Bucks, but the rest of the teams got on board with it. And so I'm glad to see, the unison. I'm glad to see the unity. I'm glad to see that they were all able to come together for one common goal and to spark something, because that right there sparked whatever's happening in the WNBA, what's happening in Major League Baseball, what's happening in the NHL, what's happening in Major League Soccer. That right there kicked it off. And so I'm proud of the NBA players for doing what they're doing. And so now the games resume today. And by resuming, the Houston Rockets will take on the Oklahoma City Thunder in Game 5. The biggest thing that the Rockets have going for them is that they get one of their leaders back in Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook has been sitting out with a quad injury. So he has missed the first 4 games of the playoffs. But Game 5, with the series tied 2-2, what you're going to see, let's go ahead and break this down really quick. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and break this thing down really quick. The one thing that has been killing the Rockets outside of late quarter runs by the Oklahoma City Thunder is the guard play. Dennis Schroeder has averaged at least 30 points in the last 2 games. The Rockets went up 2-0, and now they're tied 2-2. Dennis Schroeder, the backup point guard coming off the bench, the 6th man coming off the bench for the Oklahoma City Thunder, has found a way to use his speed and his ability, because he's not a great jump shooter, but he's used his speed and his ability to be able to get to the bucket when he gets bigger defenders on him who may not be as quick. Like when he gets P.J. Tucker on him. P.J. Tucker is big and he's physical, but he's not as quick as Dennis Schroeder. So Dennis Schroeder used his ability to get to the rack like that. Chris Paul, late, he's been hitting those type of jump shots because they also are not exerting a lot of energy on the defensive end. So on the defensive side of the ball. So when the Rockets hit, 8 3-pointers in a row and get up 15, the Thunder didn't panic because they're like, well, James is going to have to rest soon. Not only is James going to have to rest, we're just going to keep picking away because there wasn't that huge secondary star that the Rockets had because he was on the bench cheering his team on. Well, now all of that changes because once you get Russell Westbrook back, and even a Russell Westbrook at 70% is better than no Russell Westbrook. Once you get Russell Westbrook back, now guess what you're forced to do? You force Dennis Schroeder to have to play defense, or Chris Paul to have to play defense on the other end, because there's no possible way you're just going to hang around the perimeter and try to, make it hope that Eric Gordon shoots a 3, or Austin Rivers, or Daniel House Jr. Russell Westbrook is a quick, physical guard who will take you to the rack and will bully you at the rack, and he's not a bad defensive player. So Dennis Schroeder, let's just say by Game 6, when Russ gets some of his wind back, because he's not going to have his legs, and that's why I said 70%. He's not going to have everything that he needs today, but his presence alone causes the Oklahoma City Thunder to change. Also, Russ played for that team his entire career up until this year. So he knows the mindsets of those players. He knows Billy Donovan. He knows their schemes. He knows their sets. And even though they're led by Chris Paul, he still knows what their tendencies and their habits are because Russell Westbrook is very smart. And so what he's going to do is he's going to use their weaknesses against them. There won't be a way for Dennis Schroeder and Chris Paul to get hot at the end of these quarters and make these runs like they are when Russell Westbrook is in the game. Did I say Chris Paul was on the Rockets? I thought I said Chris Paul was on the Thunder. And even if I did, my bad, that was a Freudian slip. Chris Paul and Dennis Schroeder on Oklahoma City. Let me put that up because I like for people, if I'm wrong, I like, hey, look, call me out. If I said that, I apologize. Like I said, that was a Freudian slip. But with Russell Westbrook being on the Rockets, Chris Paul and Dennis Schroeder, they won't be able to stop him. And also, watch how James Harden's game improves. And, well, I mean, James been balling this series too. But watch how it goes up a different level. And watch how Austin Rivers plays when Russell Westbrook is on the court. Watch how that second unit plays when he's on the court. He's been getting the Rockets have been getting a lot of help from Jeff Green. Watch how they play when Russell Westbrook is in there with Jeff Green. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do. I'm looking forward to seeing how the Rockets are going to use Russell Westbrook, a 70% Russell Westbrook, because even though he got to play in the inner scrimmage on Thursday, the 5-on-5 to try to get his win back, to try to get him going, we're going to see how he's going to be with, playing in a game as much. I don't know if Mike said that, and then Mike being Coach D'Antoni, I don't know if Coach D'Antoni said that he's under a minute restriction or not. I'm not for sure. He's getting ready to go on in about 25 minutes. We'll get a chance to talk to him via Zoom for his pregame press conference. So we'll see. But I know that I am excited that Russell Westbrook is back. And if the Lakers handle their business, if the Lakers do what they're supposed to do and close out their series, and if the Rockets can advance, that's going 7. I'm just telling y'all that right now. I'm willing to put money on it. It's going to go 7 games. And I'll give you a prediction after game 2. How about that? All right, y'all. I got to get ready to get up out of here, but y'all know how we do it. Before I get ready to get up out of here, we got to get this Article 15 in. All my Vietnam veterans, welcome home. Germany, good night. All my active duty military personnel that's downrange, good night. It's now time for Big Sarge's Article 15. Crybabies, come get this work. By crybabies, let me tell you what I mean. We have been discussing at great lengths today about how these athletes are protesting social injustices, systematic racism, discrimination. We have been talking about how these athletes are using their platforms in order to bring awareness, not just making t-shirts, not just making hashtags, not just sharing stuff on their social media platforms. They say, you know what we're going to do? We can show y'all better than we can tell you all. So with this latest incident with Jacob Blake, a citizen of Kenosha, Wisconsin, being shot in the back 7 times by a police officer. And I'm not here to discuss the rest of the parameters behind it. All I'm going to say is there was an unarmed civilian shot in the back by a law enforcement official 7 times. So that was the breaking point for these athletes all across the sports world, all across the NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, WNBA, hockey, soccer. That was the breaking point for all of them. This is the problem that I have. When I call you crybabies, this is what I mean by crybabies. All you people out there talking about, they shouldn't be doing all of that. Just go and do your jobs. Just get on the field and play. You shouldn't have to. You shouldn't be worried about what's going on over here. What does that have to do with you dribbling the basketball? What is it got to do with you hitting the baseball? Let me tell you why. Because when you look at the NBA, when you look at the NFL, the majority and the WNBA, the majority of those players are what? African American. So when they leave the field and when they leave the court and they get into their vehicles to go home, guess what they are? Black. Guess who's under attack right now? African Americans. So the only way that they can get their voices heard and the only way that they can help their communities to get their voices heard is to use their platforms. And I'm going to give up my season tickets. I'm not going to buy any more apparel. I'm not buying any more team apparel. I'm not going to support this team. Blah, 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 blah. Shut up. You're the same ones who say that you were not going to support the NFL because of Colin Kaepernick. And next season, your ass has season tickets, the NFL package. You at the sports bar watching the game. So I don't want to hear it. You know what you should be using your platform for? Do you know what you should be saying? Hey, well, maybe we need to discuss black people not getting shot. Maybe we need to discuss black people not getting killed. Maybe we need to discuss that. Maybe we need to have the conversation. Maybe there needs to be an open dialogue on saying, hey, law enforcement officials, can you stop shooting African Americans? Can you, if you can stop shooting African Americans, maybe these African American players won't have to stop work, won't have to stop play. But instead, you all love to be miserable and you go on social media and you always say all these things that you're not going to do. And you talk and you criticize the players. I've said this on numerous occasions. Now I'll say it again. It's entertainment for you. It's their jobs. So before you start rambling off at the mouth and running off at the mouth, maybe you should ask yourself, well, why are they protesting? Why are these athletes protesting? Why do these athletes feel that way? What's going on? Maybe I should stop looking at the selfie and look at the panoramic view. Oh, I get it now. That the players are upset because every time they turn on the TV, something new happens with African American people unarmed being killed by, guess what? Law enforcement officials. When you're ready to see that, then you'll be able to see why these athletes are saying, I'm a black man. I got black people in my family. I'm a black woman. I got black men and women in my family. I got friends, classmates, teammates. I have African Americans around me, and I fear for their lives. But not only do I fear for their lives, I feel fear for my life as well. So let's have that dialogue. Let's have that conversation about black people stop getting shot first. And when we can have that conversation about black people stop getting shot, then we can move on to, okay, now here's why they're protesting. Every time you think about, or every time you get upset, and every time that you want to cuss at the players for using their platforms for protesting, I want you to think about Breonna Taylor and think about how she lost her life. I want you to think about Botham Jean and how he lost his life. I want you to think about George Floyd and how he lost his life. I want you to think about Tatiana Jefferson and how she lost her life. I want you to think about Philando Castile and how he lost his life. And the list goes on and on and on. So every time you feel the need to get angry at athletes, do a Google search on how many African Americans have died or been shot unarmed by law enforcement officials. Big Sarge,